This footage was released by the US Coast Guard showing the moment they intercepted a narco-submarine. It all began when the US Coast Guard was conducting a routine patrol along the Pacific coast. While patrolling, the aircraft spotted a mysterious submarine with its shadow barely visible above the water surface. They immediately reported it to the US Coast Guard about the ongoing activity. Within minutes, the backup arrived. 2 boats rushed across the water along with a helicopter and quickly surrounded the submarine. The Coast Guard crew moved quickly, getting everything ready to intercept the submarine before it could escape. It can be clearly seen in the video that the Coast Guard crew came very close to the submarine, but perhaps the smugglers were completely unaware of the operation, as not a single move of resistance came from them. The crew pushed with all their strength, forced the latch open, and arrested the smugglers. This action grants the Coast Guard crew access to the submarine's interior. The crew leans in, unsure of what they'll find. They were just moments away from discovering something they never expected. In this case, the submarine was intercepted with several smugglers still on board, caught in the middle of their mission. Inside the vessel, authorities discovered a massive quantity of cocaine, hidden and ready to be transported across the ocean. The cocaine was estimated to weigh a staggering 3,000 kilograms, enough to be worth hundreds of millions of dollars. The intended destination for the drugs was the United States of America. This was one of the 200 submarines that authorities managed to capture between 2006 and 2025. Every year, thousands more carry illegal drugs into the United States, completely undetected. Today's story is unlike anything you've ever heard before. For decades, drug cartels ruled the seas in silence. From Pablo Escobar's multi-million-dollar drug empire to modern criminal networks, they stayed one step ahead, moving tons of cocaine right under the world's nose. So how did these ghost submarines work? Why were authorities powerless for years? And how did a secret underwater war go unnoticed for so long? Why would drug cartels let a submarine worth millions of dollars sink after just one mission? This is the hidden story of narco-submarines. For many years, drug smuggling has spread silently across the world, slipping through shadows and crossing borders. Law enforcement agencies have continually worked to develop new strategies, always trying to stay one step ahead of smugglers to catch them. These strategies aim to counter the evolving methods of drug smuggling. The fight against drug smuggling requires ongoing innovation and adaptation. International cooperation has been key, with nations working together to fight this global problem. But even after all these attempts, drug smuggling into the United States and Europe has never been fully stopped, not even close. The main reason is that drug cartels always manage to stay 2 steps ahead of the anti-drug forces. South America has always been the primary source of cocaine production globally. Colombia, Peru, and Bolivia form the Andean Triangle, a key region for coca cultivation. The Andean region's climate is particularly well suited for growing coca plants. This favorable climate contributes significantly to the region's role in cocaine production. Colombia produces more cocaine than any other country in the world. Around 90% of the cocaine seized in the United States comes from Colombia. This indicates Colombia's significant role in the international cocaine market. 99.5% of the cocaine is produced in Colombia, Peru, and Bolivia. The massive scale of production highlights just how difficult it is to combat drug trafficking. International efforts have been focusing on disrupting Colombian cocaine supply chains since 1996. Back in the 1960s, when the restrictions were less stringent, people would pack in their luggage and carry it to the United States and Europe. These flights frequently carried their hidden cargo to destinations in Central America and Europe. With limited security in place, it was much easier for smugglers to transport illegal substances undetected. Increased security measures on land routes led smugglers to seek alternative methods. Sea vessels became a popular choice for transporting illicit goods. Smugglers exploited the vastness and relative freedom of maritime routes to smuggle drugs around the world. This shift presented new challenges for law enforcement agencies and anti-drug forces. Monitoring and intercepting sea-based smuggling operations required specialized resources. The use of sea vessels marked a significant change in smuggling tactics during the 1970s. During the 1980s, Cessna aircraft were frequently used in illegal drug trafficking operations. Drug cartels utilized these small planes to transport cocaine, where the pilots were paid a hefty amount to transport these goods. The cocaine was flown from Colombia, a major production hub, to various destinations. These destinations included Caribbean islands, serving as transshipment points. Secret airstrips in Central America were also used for clandestine landings and distribution of the drugs. This was the time when Pablo Escobar's Medellin cartel dominated about 80% of the global cocaine market. The cartel established a complex network for smuggling cocaine throughout the world. Cunning partners of Pablo Escobar like Carlos later transformed these islands into major hubs for drug smuggling operations. These island hubs facilitated the movement of cocaine to various destinations. With the passage of time, advancements in radar technology significantly enhanced aircraft detection capabilities. As authorities improved detection, cartels faced new challenges, with their aircraft increasingly intercepted during drug flights. Consequently, cartels were forced to adapt their new strategies for smuggling. The need to evade radar detection drove the search for alternative methods and engineering innovations. These alternative methods were aimed to maintain operational effectiveness while minimizing risk. As a result, drug cartels adopted speedboats to enhance their trafficking operations. They were specially modified to maximize speed and performance for smuggling operations. With their powerful engines, they were able to outrun patrols and slip past law enforcement. The speed advantage allowed rapid deliveries to Caribbean islands. This tactic allowed smugglers to move illicit goods more quickly and with far greater discretion. But the authorities increased maritime patrols to counter smuggling operations via speedboats. Advanced radar systems were deployed to improve the detection, and it ultimately became easier to track and catch them. These measures made it increasingly difficult for cartels to rely on speedboats for smuggling. The escalating pressure forced cartels to search for entirely new methods, finding ways to smuggle drugs that authorities had never seen before. This created a constant cycle of law enforcement actions and cartel adaptations, each trying to outsmart the other. By the late 1990s, land routes were shut down. Sea lanes were heavily watched. For the biggest drug cartels, getting drugs into the United States was becoming nearly impossible. They needed something that could beat radar, slip past marine patrols, and most importantly, transport more drugs than ever before, all at once. That's when they stopped thinking like smugglers and started thinking like engineers. With the engineering innovation, they built submarines made from fiberglass, nearly invisible to the radar detection system. Where speedboats once carried limited loads, these machines could transport 5 to 10 tons of cocaine in a single trip. And guess what? It worked perfectly for the cartels. They worked so well that anti-narcotics forces stayed baffled for years, unable to understand how cartels kept moving massive shipments without a trace. The trend that started in 1990 remained hidden until 2006, when the first narco-submarine was finally intercepted after 16 years in the shadows. Approximately 160 kilometers from the Pacific coast of Costa Rica, U.S. Coast Guard personnel were conducting an aerial patrol. That was the moment when they saw the top of a submarine emerging from the water. This was a 50-foot-long narco-submarine, constructed from plastic and fiberglass with only a small porting above the water surface. You must be wondering, where were these drug mafia engineers constructing such advanced submarines? What secret workshops were hidden from the world's eyes? And how far could these submarines go silently? And this is where the story takes a darker turn. Why would smugglers deliberately send a high-value submarine to the ocean floor the moment the job was done? To understand how this was even possible, we have to start with the submarines themselves. There are 4 main types of narco-submarines, and I'll take you through each one step by step. The first one is the LPV, also known as the low-profile vessel. It stayed mostly hidden underwater, with just a tiny top peeking above the waves. This LPV was 14 meters long, and its color resembles the ocean, which also makes it undetectable. LPVs were primarily utilized in the waters between South and Central America. These vessels have a substantial cargo capacity. They can carry up to 7.7 tons of cargo, such as cocaine. The second type is transatlantic semi-submarine. It is similar to the LPV but much more advanced and larger, reaching over 20 meters in length. It has 3 compartments, one for the engine, one for the crew, and one dedicated to carrying the cargo. These semi-submersibles could carry up to 20,000 liters of fuel, giving them the ability to cross the Atlantic Ocean, traveling all the way from Brazil to Europe. GPS was not available on these submarines, so the smugglers relied on simple navigation methods, using only a basic compass to find their way across the open sea. The third type is the snorkel submarine, which resembled a real submarine and could fully submerge beneath the water. These subs utilize a snorkel pipe as a mechanism for air intake while submerged. To this day, no snorkel submarine has ever been caught by the authorities. And the fourth type is the most advanced and modern narco-submarine, known as the electronic submarine, engineered with cutting-edge technology. These submarines had no diesel engine and were powered entirely by batteries, allowing them to move silently through the water. The reduced acoustic signature makes them exceptionally difficult to detect using sonar technology. This stealth capability provides a significant tactical advantage in underwater operations. These submarines have a length of 12 meters, and they operate without a crew, being remotely controlled or autonomous. Electronic submarines have a limited operational range of 60 kilometers. Due to their limited range, they require towing to the deployment area by a bigger ship. Whenever the Coast Guard was spotted, the electronic submarine was being unhooked in the ocean, disappearing entirely beneath the waves. Narco-submarines contain essential facilities for extended underwater voyages. These included a compact washroom for basic hygiene, a sleeping space to accommodate the crew during long transits, and energy bars were stocked to supply sustenance throughout the journey. Authorities say that submarines of this kind were never caught in action, always remaining hidden during their missions. Only the remains of these submarines were ever found in the forest, which is how authorities learned about their existence. Now, it's time to uncover the secret locations where these advanced submarines were being built. These submarines were constructed in shipyards hidden in the dense jungles of South America. Dense forests provided natural concealment for these operations, and the remote locations helped to avoid detection by authorities. This makes interdiction efforts challenging due to the inaccessibility of the shipyards. Building a narco-submarine was involving a massive financial commitment, with estimates suggesting that each one was costing nearly $2 million to construct. But for the smugglers, that expense meant nothing. The true prize was tens of tons of cocaine, nearly $400 million worth. That's the reason they were designed for a single mission only. As soon as the job was done, a valve was opened and the submarine was left to sink quietly into the ocean floor, so that the submarine was never found by the Coast Guard, nor could anyone ever trace it back to the people who built it. Even if the crew was still inside and saw the Coast Guard approaching, they would open the emergency valve without hesitation, letting the submarine sink on purpose. And they themselves would escape from the submarine, leaving it to sink so no evidence of its existence would remain. Prior to 2008, if a narco-submarine was seen sinking, U.S. law forced the Coast Guard to rescue the crew, treating them as drowning victims. And because the submarine sank thousands of meters below the ocean, all evidence was lost, making it nearly impossible for courts to prosecute the smugglers. Post-2008, U.S. law was amended to address this hurdle. The amended law permits prosecution in such cases, even in the absence of physical evidence. Yet the smugglers deliberately let it sink, understanding that the lack of evidence could make court proceedings easier and punishments far less severe. And here the question arises, how did the authorities get all this information about the narco-submarines you are seeing in this video? In 2022, Oscar Moreno Ricardo, a key member of the smuggling world, also known as the King of Narco-Submarines, was caught. He was not a smuggler himself, but his job was to design and build submarines of this kind. Later, it was also revealed that Oscar initially engaged in cocaine transportation using speedboats as well. But later, he transitioned himself into a more specialized role within criminal organizations and started constructing submarines for them. He mainly used to build these submarines for Mexican and Colombian smugglers. He used to live deep inside a hidden shipyard tucked within a dense forest, staying out of sight while working on these covert submarines. In January 2022, he traveled to Medellin, a major city in Colombia, to finalize a deal. But that was the time when authorities arrested him before it could happen. This operation was carried out jointly by the Colombian National Police, the Colombian Army, and the U.S. Drug Enforcement Administration. Oscar's arrest was indeed a big victory for the law enforcement, but this was just a tip of an iceberg. But the experts believe that despite all these efforts, thousands of tons of cocaine were still smuggled from South America to Central America and Europe through hidden underwater routes, where the evidence was being destroyed as old submarines were deliberately sunk to the ocean floor. At this very moment, deep in the jungles of Colombia, a new mastermind could be building an electric, silent, and unmanned submarine. The thing is, as long as the demand for these drugs exists, the multi-billion-dollar business of major cartels will keep evolving in new forms. What do you think about all of this? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And if you'd like me to uncover more hidden secrets, just let me know. I hope you enjoyed the video. Don't forget to subscribe, follow, and share. I'll be bringing you more fascinating and little-known facts. See you in the next one.